Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Joy News Desk. We're live from our studios in Kokomlemle. We're a home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Coming up, coalition of 18 civil society groups headed for the Supreme Court should President Akufo-Addo assent to what they call an obnoxious Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2021, more as the proponents of the bill also prepare to face them in court. Also ahead in this program, Attorney General defends President Akufo-Addo's 10 trillion judgment debt saved to the state statement. More as he says the amount is even an understatement.
Savings that the president announced were actually an underestimation. The president grossly underestimated.
Also coming up, stroke identified as the leading cause of death in the eastern region. We'll tell you more. Details of these and many other stories coming up in the next 1 hour. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to the program. After more than 2 years of being filed in Parliament, the controversial Anti-LGBTQ Bill has been unanimously approved by Parliament, despite Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin pleading for time to propose further amendments. The bill, among others, prescribes a 3-year jail term for engaging in LGBTQ plus activities and a 5-year imprisonment for promoting LGBTQ plus activities. For so many weeks, the bill's passage has suffered last-minute blockages and amendments.
In 3 years for this bill to go through Parliament and finally passed, civil society organizations and some human rights organizations have railed against this bill, warning that this could spell doom for Ghana's democracy. But Parliament has unanimously today approved this bill. There was not a single voice that voted in opposition to this bill on the floor today. It was not without some controversy. The Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, pleaded with the Speaker to allow him some more time to move some further amendments to the bill because the sponsors had moved some earlier today.
Mr. Speaker, I humbly pray that you grant me leave, which leave would allow me to formally file some amendments I have to this bill. But the sponsors themselves again and again filed amendments. Please, let's be fair. The sponsors themselves...
Leader, ignore them and make your point.
The sponsors themselves again and again filed amendments. Please hear me. Please accommodate me. I'm not the only one who is coming with an application for second consideration. This is the third time that the sponsors themselves have come to this house for second consideration. The third time. Twice on notice, one without notice. So, Mr. Speaker, it wouldn't be out of place to pray, to be accommodated, to enable me file my amendments. Mr. Speaker, I believe that instead of going viva voce, instead of using the extempore approach, if I file and it same appear on the other paper and members are able to read, they will get a sense of my point, and then we'll be able to have a law that all of us would appreciate its import. Mr. Speaker, should we hurriedly suspend the rules and say that we are past it?
Well, the NDC were clearly opposed to that, and the Speaker of Parliament himself will not acquiesce to that demand.
Speaker, our colleague, the Majority Leader, just asked for a prayer In the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, the Bible says that to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under the heaven. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. And I believe the time for the third reading of this bill is now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Put the question.
So the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, put the question on this controversial anti-gay bill, and it passed.
I'm going to put the question. I'm going to put the question that the motion has been moved and seconded. And I left it for your consideration. You've made your point. And it's not for me to take the decision, it's for the House to take the decision. And so I put the question. Those in favor that the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2021 be taken through the third reading, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2021 is read the third time and passed.
An act to provide for human sexual rights and family values and related matters.
Following this, lead sponsor of the bill, Sam Nati George, says he expects that President Akufo-Addo will sign this bill into law immediately.
It is our belief that this will be communicated from the Speaker's Secretariat expeditiously to His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is our hope, our prayer, and belief that President Akufo-Addo will be a man of his words and stick to the words he spoke to the Anglican Church in the Eastern region when he said, under his watch, LGBTQ will not be established. When he gave assurances to members of the clergy that he was going to ensure that anything that promoted LGBTQ will be dealt with. There is nothing that deals with LGBTQ better than this bill that has just been passed by Parliament. We expect the President to walk his talk and be a man of his words. We are grateful to the media and we will continue to work with you.
This bill will now head to the desk of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and we expect that it will face some challenges because the President has signaled its intention not to sign private members into law if it imposes a charge on the Consolidated Fund. But no one knows the mind of the President now, and that is up to him now to decide whether or not he will sign this bill into law. This controversial bill imposes custodial sentence of 3 years on persons who engage in LGBTQ activities and 5 years on persons who promote LGBTQ activities. This is what Human Rights Watch and other human rights organizations have said is draconian. And Alexander Afenyo-Markin had been hoping to change the custodial sentences and replace them with community sentences, but he failed in this bid. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Right, so that is how the bill was passed in Parliament. Meanwhile, reacting to the passage of the bill, Professor Audrey Gajekpo described it as disappointing and obnoxious. She likened the bill to the criminal libel law, insisting it has little to do with safeguarding Ghanaian family values. We bring you excerpts of that clip in our subsequent bulletins. But in the meantime, proponents of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, however, say they are prepared to face off in court with a coalition of 18 civil society groups who are considering legal action if President Akufo-Addo signs the Anti-LGBTQ Bill into law. Listen to the Executive Secretary of the Coalition for Human Sexual Rights and Family Values, Moses Fuamweni.
Last 13 years, I have spent my hard-earned money and that of the church to cater for over 400 people who are suffering from this business of LGBT propaganda. Do you know when you keep on saying it's a minority people, minority right to do what? To do what? You see, because the law follows the facts. What kind of rights is he claiming are minority rights? And I've shared this on your station, that this business of minority rights, civil rights, constitutional rights is always a false, herring being thrown at us. And the whole basis for this falsehood was a campaign strategy written for the LGBT movement by Paul Rondeau. You can Google for his name, because they went to him, the American LGBT movement went to him and asked, how can we have America accept LGBT activities? And he said, look, and I'm quoting from the book, After the Ball, go and read it. It says that because what we do and the consequences of it are so repulsive, let us not focus on what we do and the consequences, but focus on minority rights, human rights, democracy. That's the argument they're always throwing out. So I'm saying, you, the journalists, don't buy into it. That's a lie. She says they're going to court. Well, we're going to meet them in court. So to answer your question directly, in fact, we are waiting for her in court. That's a lie. The president is a very smart politician. I don't think he's going to buy into this false argument about democracy and human rights and all of it.
Still on the anti-LGBTQ bill, former Executive Secretary of the Christian Council, Dr. Opuni Frimpong, has been applauding Parliament. He says the legislature has responded to a public concern.
And we should not be afraid of dissenting views. When I am hungry as a Ghanaian, I should be free to say I'm hungry. It should not stop other people also to raise their concerns. This anti-LGBT law that has been passed, it must be said, it's a national concern. What Parliament has done today, they have only responded to a national concern and deserve the commendation, the congratulations of Ghanaians. That other people will want to come together and raise their voices, that is their democratic right. But we want to plead with the president, the father of our land, that this law is a national concern matter, and therefore he must also give it a national response as early as possible. Even if some people want to challenge it at court, demonstrations, media, that is also their right. But it should not stop Ghanaians from protecting our moral values today and the generations that will come after us. At this stage, we will only humbly plead with the father of the land that this law is a national concern issue, and he must give it an urgent national response. We don't need to raise another tension. We have seen enough, and where we have reached is a president who must put this matter to sleep by assenting to the bill.
Well, this bill has been receiving some international attention since it was passed yesterday. So let's read to you some reactions from the international community on this development. And this is from the United States, and it says the United States is deeply troubled by the Ghanaian Parliament's passage of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, which will threaten all Ghanaians' constitutionally protected freedoms of speech, press, and assembly. So that is from the U.S. Department of State. It continues by saying that the bill would undermine Ghana's valuable public health, media, and civic spaces and economy. International business coalitions have already stated that such discrimination in Ghana would harm business and economic growth in the country. This legislation is inconsistent with Ghana's tradition of tolerance, peace, and respect for human rights. The United States echoes the call by Ghanaians who have urged a review of the constitutionality of the bill to protect the rights of all individuals in Ghana. If the Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill becomes a law, it will exacerbate fear and hatred, could incite violence against fellow Ghanaian citizens, and will negatively impact on free speech, freedom of movement, and freedom of association. Right, and this is also coming from the United Nations. And the United Nations continue by saying that if it becomes law, it will obstruct access to life-saving services undercut social protection, and jeopardize Ghana's development success. Evidence shows that punitive laws like this bill are a barrier to ending AIDS and ultimately undermine everyone's health. And this is from Rightify Ghana. It says, Rightify Ghana urges President Akufo-Addo to reject this discriminatory bill. We call on him to uphold the values of democracy and protect the supremacy of the Constitution of Ghana. President Akufo-Addo must stand firm in defending the rights and dignity of all Ghanaians, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. As an organization committed to promoting and protecting human rights, Rightify Ghana will continue to advocate for the repeal of any unjust laws and stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community in Ghana. So those are some reactions from the international community. Let's get talking and get on Zoom and speak to human rights activist Robert Amoafo. Robert, welcome to the show. Are you against protecting the moral values of the Ghanaian society, as many have termed it?
Thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to your viewers. First of all, I think let's talk about, what do you mean by morals, and whose morals are we talking about? And importantly, if we talk about morality, where in Ghana we have over 1,000 girls being defiled in 2020 and 305 women being raped. And today I'm sitting here with you talking about a group of people who we do not have statistics on this level. And so which morals are we talking about?
Well, the morals are defined in the bill which was presented to Parliament, and Moses Fuamuni, who spoke a while ago, mentioned that people who engage in these activities are also prone to diseases, and he's personally taking care of some of them. And the latest statistics from the AIDS Commission identifies that male-to-male sex, for example, breeds a lot of HIV in society. So these are some of the morals that the proponents of this bill presented to Parliament.
First of all, let's get the statistics right, The most recent statistic that we know from the Ghana AIDS Commission and the Ghana AIDS system shows that AIDS, the prevalence of sexual transmitted disease and HIV is higher among heterosexuals who have sex indiscriminately, first of all. If we say there's higher prevalence in a particular group of people, it means that it could be a few group of people, but because of certain circumstances, amongst them, there's high prevalence. It doesn't mean that it is prevalence as in spread across everybody in the country. So I think it's important that when people use these statistics, they use it in context and they use it in the right sense scientifically as it is done. So again, which moral are we talking about? Whose morals are we talking about? Do we all define everybody's morals in their homes? Those are the questions that we need to start asking ourselves when we bring the question of morals. Now let's talk about how important this conversation is around protecting human rights. And that is what I think it's important for us as a group of people who have a constitution that clearly states the protection of rights of all persons in the country.
Right, and talking about that, the proponents did mention that, for example, if you do it in your room, do it behind closed doors, they have no problem with that. But promoting it, projecting it is where they have a problem with.
What do we mean by promotion, if it could be defined? I looked at the bill, I've read it. You can imagine how many times.
Right. I believe you've read the bill. You've seen that in it, haven't you?
And that is why I'm saying, what is promotion? Is it, for instance, you sitting here with a tie? Is that a promotion? By having the rainbow flag behind you on the screen, is that promotion? If you say as a media person that you support or ensure that the protection of everybody and you don't discriminate against LGBT people, does that cause promotion? So it is just to see how needless this bill is, number one, to also say that it is going to cause confusion and it's going to cause people to use it wrongly in many contexts. If I feel that I don't like you and I think I need a law that should make you look funny or the police should harass you, I'll say, well, I saw you holding a hand of a friend in the studio, so you've held out us. You know, so then who is harmed? Is it only LGBT people? No. So that is how this law is needless. Everything these proponents talk about are already in our laws. They talk about children. We have the Children's Act that protects children. If we talk about Criminal Offences Acts, that cover a lot of the crimes that they talk about. So why do you need another law that specifically criminalizes the identity of an individual?
Hello, Robert.
Yes, I'm here.
Are you part of the 18 civil society groups that are going to petition the Supreme Court should President Akufo-Addo assent to the bill?
I support the petition. I have not officially been added to any group yet, but I support any move towards the removal of this law in total, to call on the president as a human rights activist, as somebody who understands international human rights and law, that he knows that this is strongly against the Constitution and something that would not augur well for all of us as Ghanaians. And that is what I want to emphasize in the conversations I have, that this bill is not going for a group of people alone. It is for everyone, and it can harm.
If you say everyone, what do you mean by that?
I just give you an example. If I call you that you are holding out us, maybe because of my own understanding, you're already affected. It could be used politically. I mean, now it's elections. I can pick up a law and say, oh, I saw this person holding hands some time ago, so he can lose his position. Now there are politicians who are using this as a tool for popularity, to make them more popular, to be seen as the ones who are doing the best for the morale of Ghanaians. And so already we see the harm that is being used for. Somebody has gotten increase in their Twitter following, increase in visibility, increase in being called for media interviews. Why? Because they are pushing this law that is foreign. Number one, remember, it is foreign because it is funded by American evangelists. It is funded by people who are in America, in a certain group of people who are anti-rights, anti-gender, anti-democratic people, who are funding these politicians to push this bill. Same thing in Uganda. It's happening in Ghana. It's happening in Kenya. It is not something that is happening. It's global. And you would know the trend in America, even in America as at now, that we preach as people pushing this. If you know the trend, that these anti-gender movement funding the politicians who are pushing this and making them more popular for election and using it on their political platforms, you know, and harming people just because of their own political gains is something that we should talk about. Why are we not talking about corruption?
Robert, you've mentioned that. Hello, Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You've mentioned that this bill is being funded by some American evangelists. They are the ones also funding the one that happened in Uganda and all that. How do you know that? Do you have evidence to that effect? Can you tell us which evangelical group is that?
So, first of all, if you have the global, there's a report that is called Understanding the Resourcing of the Global Anti-Gender Ideology Movement. And this report indicates, number one, International Organization for the Family, World Congress of Families, Alliance Defending Freedom, American Center for Law and Justice, Christian Broadcasting Network. And for your information, I mean, please give me a minute to also give you that in Africa alone, they are funding with 144 million only from 2013 to 2017, these bills that are happening across the continent, and other things that they are doing towards anti-rights, anti-gender activities, including this bill, which is anti-LGBT. Two, they asked that between 2013 to 2017, they funded 162 million only for Africa. And to make it even interesting, do you know that apart from, because they are based in the United States, the most funding they have spent is in the United States and in Canada, and the next level is where? Africa. Okay. So that should give you a clear indication that this promotion thing we are talking about, for people to understand, Who is promoting with me a lot of money towards a group of people?
Okay.
Now, it's statistics.
Okay.
Who is funding people to stand on platforms to preach hate? You know, these people, ask them, where have they been in America if they go to the US for meetings and conferences?
Robert,
so it's important that we tackle the issue from a facts base. This law does not have any research back in it, but it's important that as a country, when we are making any law, it is backed by facts, figures, and statistics.
Right.
Domestic violence law, domestic violence and victims opportunities turn out statistics every year.
All right. Now, Robert, I'm afraid for the sake of time, we would have to end the conversation here, but we'll definitely get you in our subsequent bulletins to elaborate further on this issue. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Let's bring you more stories this morning. As the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, says, through government's intervention, the nation has saved more than 10 trillion cedis in what would have been paid as judgment debt. This comes after President Akufo-Addo made a similar statement during the State of the Nation address in Parliament on Tuesday.
The savings that the president announced were actually an underestimation. The president grossly underestimated it, and it was actually my doing, because every minister has the responsibility of bringing to the president's attention the work that the minister has done. And in presenting my report, I deliberately understated the account, just not to raise unnecessary eyebrows and to be unnecessary sensational. But if you go through, 10 trillion is just arising in a single case. If you go through, the savings are actually over 14 billion. 14 trillion. Yes, I can refer to this matter, China Jinleng, which the Supreme Court set aside only last year. The judgment debt here, if you look at the figure here, originally, and then all the time, Ganashir, it was in the High Court of Justice, I think in Kumasi or so. The transport minister actually came here, made a lot of noise about it because it affected his account and all. And we took it up and compared to situations where ministers and the also administration would team up and orchestrate and facilitate judgment debts. This is amount of 352 billion. So that the figures are even dizzy. You can't even 352 million Ghana cedis. 352,662,144.41 pesos. And then an amount of almost $1 billion. $988 million, 294,313. That is it. So almost $1 billion plus 325 million Ghana cedis. So the Supreme Court again in 2022, after 2023, in the conclusion, says the application before the court that we have quashed the ruling given was expressly to set aside the Ghana share order and without prejudice making the consequential setting aside order, and they granted the order quashing all these proceedings. And interestingly, in this judgment, the court actually held that, as we contended, that the persons who had mounted the action even had no capacity whatsoever, and the identities could not be made out. A person who was a foreigner holding a power of attorney which had not been properly notarized and who had even died later on in the course of the trial and therefore could not have given another power of attorney to another person to pursue the trial.
Let's talk health this morning because stroke has been identified as the #1 cause of death at the Eastern Regional Hospital in 2023. This is according to the director of the hospital, Dr. Akoto Ampao. For the past 3 years, cardiovascular disease or stroke has ranked first among the top causes of death, followed by hypertension, prematurity and pneumonia, among others. Hence the urgent need to sensitize the public to change their lifestyles. Dr. Akoto Ampao made the revelation on the sidelines of the 2023 annual performance review of the hospital in Koforidua.
Malaria, HIV, and all those that were very high causes for communicable disease mortality. They've now been relegated to the backbench. And then lifestyle diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, and related issues of obesity and others have taken the front burner, and that is how come we are seeing a lot of mortality. So if you ask me, that the underlying cause of this stroke.
So the director of the Eastern Regional Hospital joins me via Zoom for more on this. Good morning, welcome to the program. Help us understand the facts and figures behind this. First of all, it appears that most young people are getting cardiovascular diseases and so on. What are the causes? What is causing that?
Thank you very much. Would want to say that these diseases are as a result of lifestyle changes that have come around with the younger people and then the general community as a whole.
And then aside that, is it hereditary? Can you inherit it?
Okay, so non-communicable diseases are generally diseases that cannot be passed on from one person to another. It is also that it is not an infectious disease, but has some hereditary components in some aspect of them. However, it is important to know that it is the lifestyle of the individual that contributes to these diseases. So you take, for example, people who do not exercise, and then people who are quite obese, people who have bad eating habits, and the amounts of calories of different food products that they take in. More importantly, are people who have the habit of smoking any kind of thing from cigarettes to shisha, which is commonly known now, and then high consumption of alcohol among the youth and the population.
And then how about eating late? If you eat a bit later in the day, can it amount to cardiovascular diseases?
Yes and no. Yes, because eating very late is akin to thinking that right after eating, you probably will be going to sleep, and then those calories that you build up cannot be utilized. So then they go to deposit in your body and contributes to the obesity that would come after. The important thing is the amount of calories of food that you probably would be taking in. And that is why it is important that you separate or divide the calories in divided portions of morning, afternoon, and evening. So you don't do a one meal high calorie food, for example, of fufu, a bowl of fufu late in the night, and then just go back to
Dr. Ampao, give us a bit of education. So ideally, if I want to stay off being a patient of cardiovascular disease, what is the ideal food I should eat morning, afternoon, evening? Let's assume for today.
All right, so in all this, you need to have a calculation of the calories, and then it must be very balanced. So you need some portions of carbohydrate, you need some portions of protein, you need some portions of fats and oils, you need some portions of vitamins and others, which are usually found in fruits and vegetables. And then you'd also need to be sure that they are in divided doses, so they are not all lumped together in one meal. And of course, it is also important that depending on your work output, how much calories you are able to utilize from your body in a day, that would contribute to the total amount that you probably would have to eat.
How about water? Does it help in any way?
Water is very essential for the body, and it is that 70% of the body is made up of water. And so anything that would lead to you not drinking enough water or having some dehydration will cause the body to malfunction.
Right. Grateful for your time this morning. Dr. Akoto Ampa is the director at the Eastern Regional Hospital. And on your election headquarters this morning, flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has described the campaign messages so far by the opposition NDC as dead on arrival. Dr. Bawumia, who was speaking at the inauguration of his campaign and manifesto team, cited the NDC's promise to equip all public, tertiary and secondary institutions with Wi-Fi zones for educational purposes, which he says the MPP government has already implemented. There's more in the following report.
The MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has further indicated that the NDC has a very blurred vision about policies and clueless on the direction they will take the country if elected.
It's very clearly laid out vision. Our opponents have a very blurred vision that they really don't know where they want to take us. They are announcing promises of things that we have already done. Did you hear that they want to do free Wi-Fi in senior high school? Can someone tell them that it has already been done? I mean, just whisper. A little research, they would have known. But they are promising things we have already done. It tells you that they are running out of ideas. When you start copying ideas of your opponent and trying to present them as yours, it tells you they are running out of ideas. So,
Dr. Bawumia, however, did not mince words in describing the NDC's understanding about managing the economy and insists the MPP has an unbeatable track record to warrant it a continuous stay in office.
Across it's amazing that you're going for a contest with your opponent to get to be promoted to the next level or what. And meanwhile, when you start the exam, you beat them in every single subject. Meanwhile, they are trying to convince the public that they are better than you. What sort of mathematics is that? I mean, really. You score 70%, they score 30%. And they are trying to say their 30% is better than you. It doesn't make sense.
Dan Butchie, chairman of the MPP 2024 campaign team, believes Ghanaians are ready to analyze the policies to inform their decisions in the upcoming election, and they are ready to persuade the voters with a convincing message.
Why did the Ghanaians renew my mandate in 2016? Why did they reject me again in 2020? Did I do anything wrong? Is it that I couldn't read the mood of Ghanaians? So what new things should I bring? And you have 8 years at your disposal to come back and hit Ghanaians with something new. I'm not sure you have been hit by anything from President Mahama or NDC. Anything new? Anything new? Tell me. Let's do the analysis. 8 years. 8 years. You have been in power. You have been rejected. You had 8 years with a whole team to come out and tell Ghanaians something different, something new that they should give you back the power. 8 years. And you are mentioning 24-hour economy? Please, this is what Ghanaians we are going to analyze.
One issue that has come out forcibly is who partners Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the upcoming election. Chairman of the MPP Manifesto Committee, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, has this to say.
We are not in competition with the NDC. No.
But how soon will that come out?
The burden the presidential candidate. Right. I've kept saying that nobody should attempt in any manner to force anybody on the presidential candidate. He is intelligent, he's analytical, and he's broad-minded. And he's been very consultative in whatever he's been doing. Let's leave it with him. Nobody forced anybody on Adubuahi when he led this party. Nobody foisted anybody on President Kufuor. Nobody foisted anybody on the current president. So why should anybody be making any attempt to, as it were, force anybody on the presidential candidate? Let us leave it with him. The buck stops with them. Of course, when he has done so, he will need to consult the National Council. And I know he will do the best for the country. Thank you very much.
The manifesto committee of the MPP in the coming days will be opened for public inputs. Samuel Mbura, Joy News.
Well, let's take you live to the State House here in Accra, where the final funeral rites of Chief Nanausay Brown, founder of Syndicated Capital, is happening.
And strong in faith. That's Acts 11, verse 23 and 24. He was truly filled with the spirit of Barnabas and encouraged all who came into contact with him. He was not only a brother in faith, in the faith, but became like a family to many. Though many of us will see his departure as an untimely death, in God's own appointed time, he has called his son home. Oh, death, what is your sting? For us in Christ, we have victory over death. Chief has only exchanged his earthly tent for a spiritual one. He has gone home in glory. Chief, you are a wonderful soul. You will be greatly missed. May your gentle and kind soul find eternal peace in the bosom of the Almighty till we meet again. Rest in peace. Onyame fa wo kransie. Amen.
Thank you very much for the tribute from the chair. The last set of tributes is from his sisters and brothers. That will be the last set of tributes from his sisters and brothers. Thank you.
There are a number of tributes from the brothers and sisters, so we'll just read bits and pieces of it so that we don't take too much of your time. But this is my tribute to Chief, my brother. I have lost not just a brother, but a life companion. If there's anyone reading from the funeral brochure, I'm going to have to skip so that we don't take too long. So I'll be on the next page and then just read bits and pieces of it. When you called that Friday morning with so much zest in your voice, how was I to know that was going to be our last conversation? When some of your friends called me after your call, I told them they could call you directly because you were very fine and had your phone on you. Indeed, I would have had a very difficult time believing if an angel had whispered to me that it would be your last day. That was the final of the conspiracy of deceptions, and I fell for them. I know you don't want me to continue to beat myself. You rather want it to be another one of the lessons your life taught me. Jesus said that the last days will be marked with deceptions, and my experience has just triggered me to be more conscious of life in these last days. The thing about deception is that it is very, deceptive. But I have promised myself that with God being my helper, I will never again be deceived by anyone or any circumstance. In spite of the many good you have done, I am not deceived into thinking that's how you earn a place with God. But I take consolation from what you shared a moment after you received communion on 8th January. You broke into uncontrollable tears for the first time ever and said, in this period that I have been sick, I have realized how much love all of you have shown me. There were days that I had up to 100 people visit me at home just to come check on how I was doing. I thank you all so much. I never realized until now how much impact I could have made for Christ. Those last words of regret, I never realized how much impact I could have made for Christ, bring me so much joy. I knew at that moment that you were truly making peace with your Maker. The thief on the cross would have done much good if saved from that cross. He would have devoted the rest of his life being an evangelist and telling others about his encounter with Jesus. Like him, I know you too had a special encounter with Jesus that afternoon. But rather than heal you from your illness to continue here in this depraved world, he chose to save you from the agonies of this life, so you could rest in the grave while you wait to be with him in paradise on the resurrection day. Now it all makes sense to me what Priscilla heard you repeatedly say the 2 days leading to your passing that fateful Saturday morning. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
May his soul rest in peace and may his memory be a blessing. We'll be back from the break with the latest in business. Stay tuned.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao, Chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Kweku Kwate is appealing to businesses to tone down their calls for government to abolish some taxes in the 2024 budget. According to him, many of the taxes are as a result of pressure from external creditors who are requesting to see some commitments from government before accepting any haircuts on their funds. Kweku Kwate was speaking to selected businesses at a dialogue organized by the Private Enterprise Federation on the current tax regime in Ghana.
In short, some of these taxes being very confident that under normal circumstances, no government will want to introduce these taxes. But these are not normal times at all. And my worry is whether some of these taxes that are coming because we are under pressure to demonstrate to our external creditors and to our development partners that, look, we can help ourselves. So we're throwing in these tax measures. We don't even know exactly whether the money will come. What we should be thinking about is, if the money doesn't come, and the creditors are now going to say, but you guys, you came to us saying that you're making a fuss. You went to impose all these taxes. We saw them. But where's the money? You say, my people, they don't like paying taxes. So I'm just saying this to make the point that you continue to put your data together. Hopefully, things would normalize. And then you can now make the solid case that will take these things off. If that time things are more normal, your case is likely to get favor with people. So that's what I would say. And I'm just saying this to lay the point that do the analysis and make the case.
Now, the Acting Commissioner of Insurance, Michael Ando, has indicated the National Insurance Commission's resolve to enhance customer satisfaction by addressing unsettled issues surrounding insurance claims. To this end, the Commission has launched a complaints management system, an online portal, which allows customers to send unresolved claims grievances to the regulator. Mr. Ando said the move, which leverages technology, will create a convenient resolution process for customers and improve service delivery in the insurance sector.
Complaint management system will address complaints associated with insurance claims. It is one of the initiatives by the National Insurance Commission to leverage technology to improve the claims process and address unresolved customer grievances. Speaking to the media after the launch, the Acting Commissioner of Insurance, Michael Ando, noted that the platform will ensure utmost customer satisfaction and enhance service delivery.
The attitude towards complaints, when you are doing business with someone, he has a grievance, he has a complaint, it is important to respond to those complaints so that you take care of the person. And that is what I address. And this system is supposed to help us to do that. Now, to make a complaint, you don't need to travel, you don't need to, wherever you are, once you have access to the internet, you can go there and conveniently submit your complaint to us so we can deal with it.
He explained how to access the portal.
So you go to the hub, there's a hub that is displayed. If once you have access to the internet and you go to that hub, the portal will pop up and you put in your details and you hit submit. There is a plan for USSD short code to be used to do this. It was going to come together, but I think there were some technical hitches, so that will be worked upon. So it will be possible at some point to use your USSD code to submit a complaint.
Mr. Ando urged insurance companies to establish a robust complaint mechanism.
We are actually coming up with some market conduct directives. These are regulatory requirements that we bring out to insurance companies, and that one that has got to do with complaints. So we are going to require insurance companies to first of all have procedures within their companies to receive and resolve customer complaints, because a lot of the complaints, as the IACG chairman indicated, can be resolved at the companies. So they can go there and then make their complaint. It's a requirement. They must put that in place. So if the customer is not satisfied, then he can come to us and bring his complaint to us, and then we can resolve it.
The portal, which has been operational since 1st February 2024, allows policyholders to enjoy fair customer treatment at their convenience.
All right, and that's it for business. Handing you back to Kenneth.
Thank you very much, Daryl. The news team returns at midday with Joy News Today. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Bye-bye.